Hi everyone, my name is Isabella and I'm the UK Leadership Webinar host for That Medic Network, and today I've got Ali Jaffee with me, who is a final year medical student at Bristol and one of the co-founders of Nutritank. So I'm really excited to have you on, Ali, and today we're going to be focusing on Nutritank, on development of Nutritank, and kind of how that links to leadership. So a quick bit about Nutritank, and I'm sure Ali will explain much more in detail later on, but just a quick summary for anyone who may not have heard of it. It's a non-profit organisation that is focused on expanding knowledge of nutrition and lifestyle medicine within medical education, and trying to make it more of a staple in, taught medical education. So yeah, so that's kind of the stuff. That's kind of a little brief intro. So Ali, could you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and what initially got you interested in studying medicine?
Sure. So really nice to be on. Essentially, I'm in final year now. This is my 6th year of medical school. And before starting medical school, I took a gap year. So I've been out of school and a student for a very long time, and I'm very excited to start work as an F1 in August. So a bit about me. I am someone who is very much a systems thinker. I love thinking about things from a bird's eye view and how systems work together rather than minutiae details. I guess you could say I am a generalist, but I have I'm very passionate about my special interests, which are mental health, nutrition, lifestyle medicine, cinema, farming, sustainability. The list goes on and on. I'm interested in a lot of different things. And so before I started medical school, I took a gap year because I didn't get in first time round. And I give talks about this quite a lot, about how important it is to be comfortable with failing and to try again and to not listen to outside noise telling you that you can't. So yes, I knew I always wanted to be a doctor from a very young age. And in secondary school, I am quite a stubborn personality. I knew that I wanted to do psych. I was so fascinated by the mind and by mental illness, and about to finish medical school, and I still want to do psych. And I have set up now, so along with my work with Nutritank, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit more detail, I've now set up my own personal professional Instagram at Ali Jaffee, which is centering around my passion for mental health advocacy. And I talk a lot about the mental health projects that I've been involved in, as well as my struggles with mental health, especially being in a leadership role such as Nutritank, and how it's been hard to balance that from time to time. And so yeah, that's me. I told you I was a talker.
No, it's great. Yeah, no, it's really nice to get an introduction, and I think that it just makes it way more relatable, especially hearing that you didn't get in first time, and again for people who I listen to this talk, a lot of medical students don't get in first time, and it's not something to worry about. And obviously it kind of, again, and I'll kind of talk about this more later on, but it kind of almost is one of the pathways towards a leadership role, because in a lot of leadership roles, a lot of it is about failing and just improving yourself over time. Yeah, so obviously you got to medical school after your gap year. And what initially kind of got you interested in nutrition and starting up Nutritank?
So yeah, on my year out, I really started cooking more, like really trying to be a bit more independent and like less reliant on my mom, even though she was like cooking a lot of my meals. But then I went traveling, so I was very much reliant on myself, and I just became very fascinated by food, how food is so multifaceted. From the fact that it is fuel and nutrition, from the fact that it has political undercurrents when you think about childhood food poverty, and from the fact that it intersects with the farming sector and agriculture, and if we look at all the issues at the moment with farming across the world. And it's emotional, it's your identity with culture, nationality. And I obviously was traveling around and I was trying new things. I just became really interested in food. I was a very fussy eater as a child, a bit of a nightmare when it came to eating sophisticated things. And then when I was finally like on my own traveling, after doing all the things I needed to do to get into medical school, because I knew before I went traveling that I had a place. And so in that year I was like volunteering, doing more things, and I was also working to save up to go traveling and all of that. So I got really into food and nature and connecting with green space and just realizing just all these different components, how important they are to health and well-being. And then I started listening to podcasts, reading books around holistic healthcare. And I spent quite a bit of my time in the States over my gap year as well, because I've got family in Texas and all over the States really. So I was jumping around, visiting them and stuff. And they're very progressive there and into kind of integrative and holistic healthcare medicine. And so I already started medical school with a kind of understanding that there are other models out there that center around the patient and take into account them as a whole person, looking at what they eat, how they exercise, and all of that. So then I started medical school and I was learning from my lectures and everything like that. And in first year at Bristol, we actually get a little GP attachment. So they introduce you to patients quite early on compared to some other medical schools. And when I was on my GP placement, and that's, a very holistic place to be, because it's, GPs are somewhat the gatekeepers. It's where someone presents their first problem and you're having to take a history and really evaluate everything going on. And I just found that when someone presented with a chronic condition, nothing was mentioned around diet and lifestyle. So I started digging deeper into it. I saw that first line management for so many chronic conditions, from hypertension to diabetes, you name it, is offer like patients diet and lifestyle advice, and I hadn't seen it being done. And then in my lectures and in my practical consultation skills, I wasn't receiving that either. So then I held like a nutrition and medicine interest evening in the medical school to see if other students were like-minded and felt the same way. And that's where I met my wonderful co-founder, Dr. Ian Broadley. He came along to one of the interest evenings and then was just very interested himself from his own health and well-being, but also because he did some nutrition modules within his degree. And so we were like, there's a huge gap. Let's just look into it from a whole national point of view. So we researched it from different medical schools, and all the feedback was the same. We learn nothing. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So we were like, okay, gap, problem, let's be the solution. And boom, Nutritank was born.
Yeah, I can, you know what, and when you were talking about that, I can relate so much to the lack of nutritional medicine and education. So I'm a second year student, for anyone watching, at Sheffield, and I've had so many lectures on things like hypertension, diabetes, and often in lectures it's very brief. It's very much give lifestyle advice, give diet advice, but it doesn't go into what specifically you might say to a person or how they might be able to do that. And likewise at Sheffield, you do early years GP, and I went to quite a lot of GP sessions, and a lot of people weren't kind of interested in taking lifestyle advice, or there just wasn't that much focus on it. And I think a lot of people quite like the idea of having having a medication to go on to say, right, take this one pill a day and you're sorted. Whereas actually, so many conditions can be prevented by good diet, healthy, exercise. And I think that's the point that I've realized it's actually so important in the vast majority of, conditions that affect so many people across the UK and in the world. So yeah, so that was really interesting to hear about. And I think that's why Nutritank I personally see as being really important. And that's why it's very exciting that you got started with it. Yeah, so obviously Nutritank began in 2017. So how has it grown, and how did you actually get how did you actually kind of begin Nutritank? For anyone watching, I'm sure there are lots of students who might be interested in a startup or a non-profit organisation, or something similar to Nutritank. So yeah, would you be able to explain a little bit how you actually went about it?
Sure. So I do owe a great thanks to social media. Without it, we wouldn't have been able to grow so rapidly, because from reaching out to other medical students in different medical schools across the country is how we were able to franchise it. So we obviously started off in Bristol, but we knew that the problem around nutrition and medical education was systemic. So then we just started reaching out to all different medical students, a friend of a friend of a friend, and we were like, can you put this in your newsletter? Can you put this on your group, your year group, Facebook chat, blah, 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 blah. And so then we, created an email, created like a really brief website page. And then we started getting like a lot of interest. And what we wanted to do in terms of using a model was the kind of bottom up grassroots young people's empowerment model. So we wanted to kind of, in and I can't be up and down the country, but we wanted to replicate kind of people who can be leaders, local leaders, each with their own branch to manage, but with our guidelines, so people don't go kind of too off the beaten track. And as you know, there's a lot of nutribolics and misinformation around, so we obviously gave guidelines on how to critically appraise nutrition material online, and so more branches began to grow and grow. So I'd say Instagram was really good for that, but we also did it, and I'm sure this isn't really wise to do anymore because Facebook's becoming more and more outdated, but this was like 4 or 5 years ago now. We did it through the Facebook group. So on a page, when you create a page on Facebook for a company, business, whatever, you can create groups and then manage the groups, so you can see how many people are in each one. But those aren't used as much anymore because we're all on Instagram now, each of our 25 branches, which is 2/3 of UK medical schools, so really rapid growth. They each have their own Instagram account, so you can see this is pre-COVID, but what local events they were holding. Now everyone's obviously doing events online, virtually, which is really actually great, to be honest, because it means events are done more frequently than having to organise so many speakers. So that's kind of how we went about doing it. In the beginning, we took the kind of lean startup approach. We did not need a lot of funding, as it was just and we were managing the networks, but it was a lot of work in the beginning without a team. And then we kind of competed in things like it's called business-based camp, like innovation competitions that were held at uni. It's kind of just like Dragon's Den type things to get small pots of money to just keep Nutritank going. Then through our campaigning, we made a lot of noise. We were disrupting. So we started making a lot of noise. The media picked up on it. We were invited to countless like BBC radio shows, did multiple interviews and things like that. And then very strangely, in my 3rd year, so 3 years ago, I get an email from Jamie Oliver's production company saying how interesting and meaningful the work is that we're doing as young future doctors. Would we be keen to come on Jamie and Jimmy's Friday Night Feast to talk about the need for nutrition for medics? And so then that happened. So then more and more noise was generated. And that opened up doors for us, because once you gain clout and you gain like national and public recognition, when you apply for grants, it just is a feather in your cap. So then we applied for a grant, and currently we're now on a 3-year grant, and we're 2 years into that. And that's been amazing because it's allowed us to make some really key hires so that the work can be delegated amongst myself and our team, because we have such an incredible large team now. It's just grown and grown and grown from our core team, which is and the 4 gals, so myself and then 3 other amazing female medical students. And then it's all about engaging people from all different levels. And we've just found out that we have been accepted onto the NHS Clinical Entrepreneurship Programme, which is kind of like the latest milestone in the Nutritank journey, because it means now we're grant funded, we're 2 years out of the 3 years in our grant. We need to have a sustainable revenue that allows In and I to keep doing what we're doing whilst being junior doctors, and to allow longevity in the organisation we've created. And so that's where we're at. That's a very whistle-stop tour of the creation of Nutritank.
Firstly, being obviously social media is so important now, and obviously things have moved, you know, I think as time goes on, things will move from Facebook to Instagram, and, you know, potentially there's a new one kind of coming up. I mean, you know, like TikTok has become so popular, and that's something which, you know, I've seen, you know, more and more doctors and medical students are using. So with kind of COVID, how did you find kind of the event, you know, those local events that you said you've done, how have those been affected? You know, did you feel that COVID-19 has kind of affected the way Nutritank has developed? Do you think it's actually benefited Nutritank? Yeah, it's been such a big change.
No, it's a really interesting question. I definitely think my answer is nuanced. So in the beginning, it was tricky because we were in kind of like May, June period trying to plan for the next academic year. And we were like, okay, we've got 2/3 of UK medical schools. We need to get more and more recruits for the other third that we don't have. But oh goodness, we don't have freshers fairs. And usually we do big things with the freshers fairs and stuff like that. For Nutritank's marketing at the local level. Oh gosh, what are we going to do? And then, yeah, we had made the decision at some point last year to have each branch have their own separate Instagram account. It just means that you can kind of be part of a tribe based on like your location in your medical school and whatnot. So in the beginning, it was a lot of let's put our heads together and think creatively and innovatively how we can make COVID, you know, make the situation beneficial for our growth. And it kind of just worked out really well. We were lucky enough that last year, the last conference that Royal Society of Medicine held was our annual conference. That conference was really a really big stepping stone for us, and we had brilliant feedback. And so we've just been building upon feedback from the conference and whatnot. And so what we've been doing is a lot of virtual events. We had a brilliant webinar series that started in September called Fill the Gap, and it was all about getting different specialty doctors from dermatology to endocrinology to cardiology to talk about doctors with a special interest in nutrition to talk about the nutrition interventions that can help prevent that chronic disease within their specialty or manage it. So we kind of created like a curriculum blueprint of brilliant talks by experts virtually. So that, and then we've collaborated with the Mac twins, who were the DJs on Love Island, who have now started a brilliant gut health organization, and we've collaborated with them recently on a webinar series where we are having speakers talk about gut health every weekend. So it kind of has worked out for the best for us, to be honest with you.
It's interesting because so to the audience, one of the Nutritank branches is in Sheffield, at Sheffield Medical School, and they've just done a series of great webinars on sustainability, food, diet, which I've attended quite a few of them. And they were really interesting to hear about. And one thing that is quite good, obviously, that you've said is that because it's all online, you know, there's kind of no limit to who can attend it. It makes it a lot more convenient for people. I mean, you know, there's kind of no limit to who can attend it. It makes it a lot more convenient for people. And obviously, because people aren't kind of doing as much, you know, I feel like people have got more time to kind of go to these kind of different events.
My name is Dr. Siddhar Mao. I am a former HLA scholar, FY2 doctor in West Yorkshire. The HLA is a great experience. It's a unique experience, and it's a personal and engaging mentorship process, which gives you a pragmatic and realistic approach to true leadership, which we can take on to all aspects of our career.
So is Nutritank something you want to be involved with in kind of the long term, or is it something that you feel that you might want to move on from? Because obviously I know you've set up your own personal Instagram. So yeah, is it something you can see yourself doing in the near future?
Yeah, no, I definitely think, I mean, I can't predict the future and what life opportunities are going to bring me, but for now, I'm very indebted to Nutritank. And as I've started on the NHS Clinical Entrepreneurship Programme, that is for Nutritank and to grow it further and upscale it. Yeah, it's my brainchild. It's something that I am very passionate about, and I've got a lot of goals and visions of where I want In and I to take it, as I'm sure he does too. So hopefully, as I pursue my medical career further and further, we will get to the stage where we can be a bit more hands-off, because we want to create a legacy out of Nutritank. And I would love to get to the stage where I'm consulting another CEO, for instance, who is really running the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, obviously there is that point, and obviously as you go on, things can develop. So one kind of main point that I wanted to ask you from, and I'm sure so many people watching this will all think the same, is how do you manage doing Nutritank and being a medical student?
Yeah, it's a really important question, because I want to empower and inspire as many people to be able to do it. But I think, it's an informed decision, and you should have all the information. So I felt differently about it at different stages in my life, depending on what's been going on for me and what pressures I've had. When it hit third year and I was finally clinical, and I was on 2 outplacements for the whole year, so that was quite stressful in terms of I wasn't in Bristol, and it was like a lot of upheaval and planning and blah blah blah. So I do recall that in third year I found it the most overwhelming, because we were on the cusp of really making it known, and amazing opportunities were coming our way. But I was a third year medical student. Clinical medicine was a huge shock to the system. When I was in third year, I was trying to get to grips with clinical medicine, and we were building Nutritank. I did find it really quite overwhelming. I remember I did have quite a lot of anxiety, but that's when we started really creating a team and things like that, to make sure that things were more balanced for In and I for our everyday lives, so we weren't going to completely lose it. And then the reason why I've always had time for Nutritank, I've had time for Nutritank always, except for when I had quite a major depressive episode about 2 years ago. I had to take a good 3 months off when I was just in crisis. So I stepped back, and that was okay. That was, you've got to do what you've got to do. And that's a lesson to everyone out there. Why would I feel guilty? You can't control these things. I've always made time for it, except for when it's been out of my control, because I'm passionate about it, and because it energizes me. The cause energizes me. The people I work with energize me, and the future of what it holds for patient care energizes me. And that has meant that at any spare moment, obviously, I have a big social life, I've got other interests too, but at spare moments within reason, I would always be sending that email. I think being super organized, planning ahead, and having a co-founder, I think doing anything on your own is really tough, because you need a sounding board, you need to bounce around ideas, and you need 2 different personalities. In and I are really different. We really complement each other. So that would be kind of my advice. I just think, take the plunge 100%. If you've got an idea, if you've found a problem and you want to be that solution, take the plunge with a team. Take the plunge if you're mentally stable, because don't do it with the worst thing that we can say is, if I have X number of followers, I'll be happy. If I have entrepreneurial venture, I'll be happy. If I use language like that and allow successes or failures for that matter to dictate your emotional state, that is when you and your startup or whatever won't progress or succeed. So I think it's a bit of like a nuanced answer, because I just am following my intuition. I don't have like a manual of how I've managed to balance it. I just have, because I'm passionate about it and I've made the time.
I think that's great advice. And for anyone watching, you know, it really is all about having the confidence and the drive and the determination. And you know, something that I can kind of relate to you on feeling motivated for, like I'm part of something called SWAMS at Sheffield, which is about widening access to medicine, and that's something I'm quite passionate about. And it's kind of starting, when you start something from scratch, and I'm lucky enough to do that with a group of people, first of all, it is so much easier having other people with you, and to bounce your ideas off. So I can completely relate to you in that sense. But yeah, it really is about having the passion and the organisation, and being able to, you know, dedicate time to that. And I think if you're motivated, you will want to, you know, you will want to send those emails, and you will want to see it grow. And I think that point of using,
exactly.
Yeah, and I think
exactly that. It was never a chore to send out to do the remedial tasks involved with creating a national organisation. I was just excited at even small things. Obviously, the big things like, you know, filming with Jamie Oliver, like, wow, that's amazing.
So
but I didn't mind the small things. That's what, you know, sets apart career and work from a passion.
But yeah, and I think just the last kind of point, because I know kind of time is quite short now, but I really liked the way you said about using positive language, so not using kind of X number of followers, because I think that's what a lot of people focus on, is if I get to this level, or if I get into contact with this person, or if I get to talk to this person, that'll make me happy, or that'll mean that I've been successful. So I think for anyone who is interested in doing a startup or is at the beginning of one, you know, take Ali's advice of, you know, enjoy the small successes and see it grow. And obviously, you know, failure within something is actually a success in itself, because if you can bounce back from that, it's only going to make you stronger. And I think that's, you know, shown from Ali. It's been lovely to have you, Ali. Thank you so much for joining. And if anyone is interested in Nutritank, please go and follow it on Instagram, social media, in personal Instagram. But yeah, it was really fab to have you on. Thank you so much for joining. And I'm sure to everyone listening, you know, take the messages that Ali said and advice and guidance, because it really is, it is so useful to have someone who is a medical student who, you know, I feel like I could relate to a lot of what you were saying. So yeah, that was great. Thank you very much for coming on and taking the time.
It's my pleasure. It's, really lovely chatting. And we are in the process of organising a virtual conference number 2 in collaboration with Royal Society of Medicine, hoping for April. So just keep in touch with everything that we're doing, because if what I've spoken about today interests you, then definitely come along to our conference.
Can I start?
Okay, ready? Yeah. 3, 2.
So what do we say for the HLA? Why we took part?
Don't move chin.
It's alright, I'm just going to stop.
Just when you ended.
Don't look away.
Yeah,
that is not going anywhere.
Just another day at the office.
Hi, I'm no.
Most important thing is what I've learned from the HLA and adapting it and moving forward and making sure, you know, I make use of it. The reason why I don't know what to say.
If I make a mistake, can I just like take a pause and then start again?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Don't really know what to say.
Don't record this.
I've really enjoyed it. I've learnt so much, and I've really benefited from. Oh God, what have I benefited from? Oh.
Okay.
Is that it's been a fantastic. Oh no, I've lost it.
Can you give me a countdown?
I don't know how much to gesticulate. How much? It's quite a mellow person. I don't know.
I'm ready.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I'll like chop and add some things.
We're looking forward to seeing you. Bye bye.